Successful Minds with Patricia Barnowski-Schneider, the show that takes you around the world to share interviews with some of the most successful and relevant people on the planet. Hear their stories and get the most important business lessons they have learned on their road to success and get exclusive advice on how to implement their success into your life and business. Successful Minds with Patricia Barnowski-Schneider is brought to you by the Strategic Advisor Board and your host, Patricia Barnowski-Schneider.
Hey, are you looking to scale your business from 5 figures to 6 figures or 6 figures to 7 figures? If you are, I have the perfect thing for you. What I want you to do today is I want you to go download a book. This book is going to take you through my 3-pillar system. It's 100% free. All you have to do is go to growfast.cash. I say again, go to growfast.cash and you're going to be able to download my free international best-selling book, which is called Be Good, Be Brief, Be Gone. You can take that book. It's going to help you scale your business to the next level. Again, go download it. Be good, be brief, be gone. Growfast.cash. I say again, growfast.cash. Enjoy.
Hello and welcome back to Successful Minds. I'm your host, Patty Baranowski-Schneider. Today I'm joined by Keith Ellis, a superpower coach and author of The Magic Lamp. So welcome, Keith. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I've written a couple of books that are potentially of interest, I suppose. I came out of the high-tech world. I've been in technology for a long time, doing startups and big companies and startups that became big companies and all kinds of other stuff. And then started writing about sort of the journey, I guess is the best way to describe it. What worked for me. And you know, what I've found is that if I can sincerely relate what happened to me and how it worked for me, it'll probably work for somebody. Not everybody. It'll probably work for somebody.
Now that's always amazing because I like doing that too. It's like you could read everything in the book, but it doesn't really matter. You need, what works. You want to talk to people like kind of like a mentor and learn like, what did you do? How did it work for you? And it is true. What works for one might not, but you'll find that one that you click with. And then it just makes a world of difference because that's when they're dealing with real life experience. It's not what you read in the textbooks. It's totally other story.
It's not. And everybody's coming from a different place. It's, people have such different tastes in everything from food to music to social media to everything else. Right. You have to just kind of roll with it and say, okay, here's who I am. This is authentically me. It is what it is,
Yeah, there's 100 people, maybe 5 of them will relate, and that's more than enough.
That's right. That's right.
So now tell us, your journey is quite remarkable, from high-tech sales to becoming the #1 superpower coach. So what inspired you to make the transition?
So there are several levels to this, and I don't want to bore people with this long story, but I'm one of those people that I've been a success junkie since I was a kid. I success junkie when I was in college, success junkie afterwards. I went to every seminar I could go to, read every book I could get my hands on. This is pre-internet days, so you got what you could get and what you could get your hands on in the library and stuff like that. And slowly but surely, I started to create. I guess the easiest way of saying this, I started to create the person I wanted to be. Okay. And I had lots of virtual mentors, people who, so I met some of them in seminars and training and stuff. Most of them, I mean, Socrates is an example, right? Socrates haven't met, but learned a lot from him. Tony Robbins, I have met, learned a lot from him and a whole bunch of other people along the way. So what slowly came out of this was this sense of how somebody can get what they want from life, not to find a point on it. Right. And I wrote a book called The Magic Lamp, goal setting for people who hate setting goals, because I always hated setting goals. I always set them, but it was a pain. And I sort of found a way that made it easy and fun. And that the book was really successful. That went on for a number of years. And then I realized I want more than this. The success was good. It was predictable. It was conventional success. I was essentially repackaging conventional wisdom. I didn't think of that at the time. Right. But I've sort of been at war with conventional wisdom through much of my career. And I realized something's missing from here. And so I sort of hit the books again and hit the seminars again and started thinking and writing and came up with this idea of a superpower that all of us have. Most of us don't realize we have it. And then became fascinated with how to tap into it. And it's all about the brain, obviously, but it's how you instruct your brain. So that's really how the journey got going.
Nice, definitely intriguing. I guess, can you explain the concept behind the magic lamp book, goal setting for people who hate setting goals? Like, how'd you come up with a unique approach?
So I was literally in the shower and thinking, I was always setting goals of one sort or another. And I was thinking, wouldn't it be great if you could just make a wish? What if goal setting was like a wish? And I started thinking about it. I said, well, it kind of is. I mean, we're our own genie, and it comes out of our brain and our creative processes, but it's really the same thing. It's what do you want? You get more than three. What do you want? And then how do you go about getting it? And then I came up with this 4-step process called the LAMP process, LAMP, lock on to what you want, take action, manage your progress, and then persist. Wow. I mean, it's super simple. Anybody can do it, and it keeps you going where you want to go, right, through thick and thin, mainly because it's so simple. So I started using that, started getting great results, shared it with other people, did some training and seminars on it, teaching people, and then wrote the book about it. And the book took off. And that's how that came about.
Nice. Yeah, it kind of makes you accountable in a way. So it's, because you could all say, I'm going to do something, but it's kind of like when it's in black and white, now I have to do it. It's no different, but Nice.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's tons of documentation about the value of what you just said. Tons of it. But that doesn't mean that people do it. And that doesn't mean that people enjoy it. So I was looking for, again, I thought I was kind of being unconventional, and really what I was doing was making conventional wisdom a little bit easier to swallow.
Nice. Now, you've helped transform the lives of more than 100,000 readers globally. So can you share a success story that particularly stands out?
Yeah, I mean, the success stories are come at all levels, because the goal setting is, people think it's this big thing. I'm setting a goal to, own a company when I'm 50 or whatever it is. Right. And it can be that, but it can be something really simple. One of my favorite success stories is a woman who was retired, living a good life, but she read the book and she started thinking about what she wanted in a way that she hadn't before. Okay. And so she decided she would get a dog. Now, this isn't what people would think of as a goal, right? But the point of the process I was describing in the book is, it all starts with figuring out what you want. And the real challenge for most of us is we're so busy with day-to-day living. Even retired people are busy. They're often the most the busiest people that you don't necessarily know what you actually want, what the real you wants. So she shared this with me, and I thought it was great. I've also had people who decided they want to start their own business. They left their career, which was very successful, but they began to feel, and this was very close to home to me too, they began to feel unemployable in the conventional workforce because they kept wanting to do things that were outside the box. And I don't mean the cliche outside the box. I mean the box that people put you in when you tend to work for a big company. And it's a smaller and smaller box, the bigger and the bigger the company is. Sorry, no offense to people who work for big companies. Anyway, and so this guy dropped out. He never worked as hard in his life as he did when he started his own business, and then he started being successful doing it. He was actually a coach of a type as well. He was teaching something called the science of persuasion, which was an interesting take on how to influence people to get them to do what you want, not manipulate them, right, but get them to do what you want. Anyway, so there, and there's all kinds of stuff in between. I get, probably, this isn't a success story, but the coolest thing to me, this book was 25 years ago. And I recently tried to buy it back from the publisher because I wanted it, because I'm doing some stuff now that I really wanted to include it in and have complete control over it, complete creative control over it, which you don't when you go through a big publisher. And they wouldn't sell it back because it was still selling. And it was like, oh, okay. But if I meet people, it happens all the time. Somebody will say, oh, I studied that in college, or I studied that in graduate school, and it's like, oh, that's cool. Oh, it's cool that you remember anything you learned in college.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
the first thing. And then you remembered that book for some reason. So that's not a success story per se. It's just that it touched somebody's life, and that's the fun. As you know, as an author, it's the fun thing when you can do that.
It's still, that is quite an accomplishment
Yeah.
that it's in colleges.
It never gets old.
Yeah. I mean, because so many people write a book and it's kind of like, yeah, you know, unless you know a guy who knows a guy, no one heard of it. But I mean, the fact that colleges are putting this out there, that's huge.
Yeah.
Now tell us the 10 times superpower framework. It sounds intriguing. So can you elaborate on what it entails and how, you know, it can make what was once impossible easy?
Yeah, so this dovetails on the Magic Lamp book. That book was very successful, and it was really successful for me. I practiced what I preached for years, and had some really good results, but they were always conventional results, which makes sense when you think about it, because if you're doing conventional things, you'll have conventional results. And I got to a point in my life where I said, this is great, this is wonderful, but there has to be more to life. I want exponential growth. I want to take my life to an exponentially higher level. And I didn't know how to do that. And I'd spent my life studying this stuff. And I was frustrated. And I was, you know, at first you feel a little stupid. And then you start thinking about it and say, well, I clearly have missed something. So I dove back into the success literature and found that there was something that was in virtually all the literature. And it was a type of question, the way people ask certain questions, and every person I studied, every teacher I had, whether real or virtual, everything they did relied on questions, and a certain kind of question. And I started thinking about it, and the more I got into this, the more I thought of these as magic questions. And then I started trying to figure out, why do magic questions work? And I started doing research into the brain and all this other stuff, and came up with a really simple answer to that. And the answer is this: when I don't know about you, but if you're in a lousy mood, let's talk about me. I don't want to put you on the spot. If I'm in a lousy mood and somebody comes by and says, think positive, I want to punch him in the face. Yeah. I'm sorry. I you know, that makes me a small person, but I just feel that way.
Yeah.
But what I want to do is change what I'm thinking. But when you're emotionally stuck, it can be really hard to do that. So what I realized is that what questions do, any question, but especially magic questions, is they're the simplest tool on the planet to change what you think about. And I mean, if you ask yourself a question, it's almost impossible to ignore it. One of the things I do when I'm giving seminars is front of a bunch of people in the room, and I say, okay, what color are your mother's eyes? And you just stop and you see all these people go internal and start thinking, oh my God. And the reason I like that question is because the first time I heard it, I didn't know the answer. I didn't know the color of my mother's eyes. Right. So next time I saw her, I was like, hi, just hold on a second. I really gotta get this locked in, because you're my mother. And I've been looking at these eyes since
decades, right?
Exactly. But it's how questions work. They don't let go of you. Even if you resist them, they don't let go of you. So magic questions are a simple way of asking questions to essentially what is now called in the AI world prompt engineering. Prompt engineering has become a big buzzword, right? How do you engineer AI to give you an answer? Well, this is prompt engineering for your brain. And it is incredibly powerful, incredibly simple. And then I started thinking about that, and I said, wait a minute, there's another level to this. So I wrote a book called Magic Questions, and then I revised that book just recently, came up with something called Magic Questions 2.0. I just published that. And then I said, there's something missing. And I'm sorry, this is a very long way to answer the question you asked about 10X Superpower. So what was missing is what was also missing from that first book, The Magic Lamp. And it was a basic misunderstanding. I'm embarrassed to say this, but I will say it. it was a misunderstanding of how goals work. Because I always thought that you figured out what you wanted from life, and then you set goals to get it.
Right.
And you create your goals to serve your needs, if you will. And I had it completely backwards. Your goals create you. Your goals, what you want from life, creates who you are. This sounds counterintuitive, but it actually makes sense. And then I realized that if you want a bigger present, you have to create a bigger future. And I had spent many years thinking, okay, I'm going to work really hard now, and I'll make some incremental progress, and I'll have a really good future. It'll be incrementally better, but I'll get there. And that was goal setting to me, and it worked, and it's cool. And the book talks about it, and it's wonderful. But what was missing is, what if I wanted more than incremental progress? What if I set a 10X goal, a goal that's 10 times where I am now? Literally 10 times where I am now. In fact, a goal that's so far beyond where I am now, it has to feel impossible to me.
Right.
If it doesn't feel impossible to me, it's not ambitious enough. Now, if I set that goal, I immediately change my present. If I set that future, I instantly transform my present because I'm filtering everything I do for that future.
Right.
I did this, absolutely blew my mind, changed my life, literally turned my life upside down, and then started doing some more research and studying because that's sort of my nature. And I started thinking about things in my life where I had made 10X transformations, right? And then I started thinking, I said, well, wait a minute. And I had recently had a granddaughter, and I didn't have it, but
Yeah.
and she came into our lives, and it was wonderful.
So
and
that's really good 10X.
yeah, that's a book. That's a book. So, and I started thinking about when she was learning to walk, and I remember thinking, how many times will a baby try to walk before it gives up? Well, obviously they don't give up, but think about that instinct. They don't give up because of how they're programmed instinctively. But you think about that for a second. You say, think of how profound that is. When a baby learns to crawl, it's impossible for it to walk, but it immediately starts trying to walk. It starts trying to do the impossible, and then it changes, it grows until it can accomplish the impossible. What was impossible is now easy. So my newest book is called 10-second I'm sorry, erase that from your brains. That was an early title. 10X Superpower. What was impossible is now easy. And it's about this same kind of instinct, really, that the toddler has, that we do over and over and over again in our lives, don't realize we've done it. And then at some point we realize, I want exponential growth. Wait a minute, I already know how to do this. I've got all these examples of doing it. I mean, walking is just one, right? What about learning to talk? What about learning to walk? What about learning to drive? That changed my life. And I guarantee the first time I got in a car, I thought it was impossible to, not run over the trash cans or whatever was in front of me. So that's what this new book is about. And that's sort of the journey from starting thinking about goal setting in conventional sense to thinking about, wait a minute, that's wrong. I need to set impossible goals, because then I have to grow to become the kind of person who can achieve what I now think is impossible. And that's a fantastic change.
It's amazing. But it is funny because you have it, I guess it'll separate the boys from the men sort of thing, because you'll have the people who are always like, yeah, no, I can't do it, and that's it. And they'll just keep with the mediocre, be miserable in life because they just, I just can't. It's too hard. It's not in my blood, blah, blah, but make 1,001 excuses. Where, they say you get out of life what you put into it. Put in that effort, go the extra mile, because it is true. Anything you do in life, learn a new language, like anything, it's not easy. But, everything you accomplish, like just think of like that superpower that you have, like, oh my God, I feel amazing that I was able to accomplish what I didn't think I could.
Yeah.
And that's why I always tell people, believe in yourself. Don't listen to what other people tell you, because you might have people around you that discourage you.
Yeah.
They're an idiot. They were never smart. Oh, they're not book smart, whatever. if you believe you can do it and you put in the effort, you'll make it happen. But having a guidebook that's guiding you the right way, because it is true where like years ago, you worked for a company, it could be a big corporation, and you do as you're told. That was just it. You know, you got your orders, that's it. But now thinking outside the box and saying, okay, well, this might be an easier way, this might be a better way, and I found a way that can make this 10 times better and blah, blah, blah. You know, now you're kind of growing in that position. So, you know, having someone who can give you a little roadmap on how to make your life exponential, that's a huge thing. And I am so, so, so happy that colleges are actually teaching that, as opposed to that, you know, century-old textbooks that they give.
Well, they aren't teaching the new book yet. New book isn't out. Maybe that'll happen. But there's also a wrinkle on it, and you touched on it brilliantly, and I would love to go back to it. You said people around you might not be, you know, supportive or encouraging you, or might say, oh, you'll fail, you'll screw that up. I guarantee you that if you set a goal that's an impossible goal, and I call it a 10x goal because that's something you can sort of wrap your brain around. But sometimes it needs to be more than 10x. It needs, because you might think, oh, I can do that 10x. You know, I can make 10x 10 times more money, or I can, you know, lose, get healthier, 10 times healthier, whatever. Maybe it's more than that. The point is, it needs to feel impossible. And once you set that and start working toward it, you will, I guarantee you will find people around you who either think you're crazy or are intimidated by it. Because you're not the who they know. You're not the person they know anymore, because you're changing. You're choosing to change. So I found, I said this earlier, you can't, you know, you're not going to please everybody. You don't try to worry about that. You just try to be authentic. And if you've learned something that's of value to you, you try to share it. This is so out there that probably 1 in 100 people will want to embrace this idea of 10x because it is so intimidating to them. For one thing, they think it's 10 times as hard. That's the human response to, how would you like to make your life 10 times better? Well, I just can't work 10 times harder. It's just, there's not enough hours in the day. And here's the next piece of this 10x, what I call thinking 10x. It's actually easier than what you're doing now. And that really freaks people out because it makes no sense. How can having 10 times more than I have now, however you define that, your relationships, your health, your money, all of the above, how can doing that actually be easier than what I'm doing now? And again, there's a lot of science behind this, but just in a really simple way of putting this out there, everybody knows the 80-20 rule, right? 80% of what you do gives you 20% of your results. 20% of what you do gives you 80% of your results. So any idiot can say, oh, I should be doing the 20%, right? But what is the 20%? And that's sort of the gotcha that if you go to a seminar about 80-20, you don't really get an answer to that question. The 10x goal is the answer to that question, because it is, if you think about, let's say you're a business person and you want to grow your business, your income, just grow the size of your business by 10 factor of 10, 1,000% over, say, 3 years. Okay. You look at that and you say, okay, how can I do that? And chances are your first reaction is, that's impossible. 1,000%, that's just impossible. But if you commit to it, you say, I want to do that. I really want to do that. Then your brain starts filtering out how it can become possible. And all this noise, which happens to be, wait for it, the 80%, all that 80% fades into, it's called, in scientific terms, it's called signal to noise ratio, right? It's signal to noise. How do you separate the signal from the noise? And the 10x separates the signal from the noise. It's the most elegant tool I've ever found for doing that. And then you start thinking only about the signal, only about, oh, this is how I reach this goal. I don't do this anymore. I don't do this anymore. The other piece of this, just to kind of wrap this up for you, 10x by definition, because you've set an impossible goal, what got you here can't get you there. So immediately you're telling yourself, I'm committing to changing how I think so dramatically that I'm not going to do what I've been doing, because I can't take what I've been doing and do more of it and get to 10x. I can't do 10 times what I've been doing. It won't work. So you immediately just say, okay, bye. What will work? And it's something different than what you're doing. It's something you hadn't thought about before. It might be something you thought you couldn't do, but because you're committed to this 10x goal, now you start focusing on that, and it changes your perspective in your life. So again, this isn't for everybody. And just to really put an exclamation point on that, I'm going to charge, I told you the book comes out in a couple of months. I'm going to charge $10,000 for the book, which is absolutely nuts. But the reason I'm doing it is because I want people to understand this is a commitment. Right. That I'm not the one doing the heavy lifting. I'm just back here saying, this worked for me. Look at all these cool things that I came up with. You're the one putting it to work in your life, and you have to be committed to it. And we all know people who will read, the latest, greatest self-help book, right, and say, oh, that's really great. I learned all kinds of stuff, and then go to the next one. Yeah. And then the next one and the next one. And this doesn't work that way. This won't do you any good if you approach it that way. So I just figured, let's cut out all the 80%, or probably 99%, and just say, look, if you're serious about 10x growth, I can show you how to get there. You're going to be doing the work, but I can show you how to get there. And here's what you commit to right up front. And it's a big number. Now, that big number comes with a whole coaching program. You mentioned the Superpower Coach. I've got this whole program about how to bring this to life in a person's life. Right. And so this is also kind of, I told you I was at war with conventional wisdom. This turns conventional wisdom on its ear. Most people in the coaching business will give their book away and then try to sell you their coaching program. Right. I'm charging you $10,000 for my book and saying, oh, my coaching program comes along with it. Yeah, it's just, it's a different way of approaching it.
Yeah, no, it definitely, I mean, if I'm giving you something for free in the hopes that you kind of taking a chance there.
Right.
And I like how you say that you have to do, something completely different, because what is it? The definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, that's
so
it.
It makes sense. Yeah. Now, how do you combine your passion for personal development with your experience in high-tech sales and business development to drive results?
Well, I almost shot myself in the foot with that. I am such a geek. I don't mean I'm an engineer or a technologist. I've always been technology adjacent. I've always been in sales or marketing for big companies, some of the biggest companies in the world, and some that started, as I said, very small. And I've been fascinated with technology, but I've been fascinated with it as a problem-solving tool. So the bits and the bytes and the programming, that's neat. I guess I could get lost in those weeds if I chose to. Yeah. But the slightly higher level where you see how something changes your life, excuse me, Zoom is a good example of that. We're using it now, right? Zoom sort of happened on the world during the pandemic. It was there before that, and video conferences were there, but they were sort of things you had to show up because your boss said you had to do it or something. And then they became something that became a bedrock of our lives. That I like to see technology do things for us, and if properly used. So when I left my career in the high tech world and started my own business, I just geeked out. I had all these tools to identify potential clients, to reach potential clients, to serve them through Zoom, and to create a compelling message in a way that people would appreciate, to capture myself on video and audio, and all these new tools that did amazing things. Right from, a home office, because I've worked from home for decades. Just that's the way I like to do it. And I did everything myself. And of course I didn't get anything done because I was spread so widely. And I finally had to, even designing a website and forms and all that stuff was a ball, except that it became my life. and I'm not a web designer. I'm not a developer. And what I wanted to do was what you and I are talking about. I wanted to make this available. I wanted to figure out how to communicate it through training, through videos, through book, the whole thing. That's my passion, and that's what I'm pretty good at. And I wanted to, get out of the rest of that. So I figured out how to do that, which is also part of this whole 10X process. You find what's called a who. I call it the power of who. You find somebody to do things that you no longer want to do. And in doing that, it sounds like delegating. It's not delegating. Delegating, most of the world sucks at delegating. And most employees who get delegated to think it's just more crap rolling downhill, right? That I have to handle. I'm talking about finding somebody who is so engaged in what they're doing, which happens to be what you need done, that you transfer like web development. This is what I did. You find somebody who's really good at it and loves doing it, and then you let them do it. They're going to do a better job than you. It frees you to do what you're really good at. And if you take that one example, one person becomes two people, you can iterate that as much as you want, because what you're doing is you're taking their capabilities and adding them to yours. And there's no limit. There's no end to that. There are 8 billion people in the world. Each of them bring special gifts. And if you need their gifts and you can figure out a way to collaborate with them so that they win and you win, then there's no 10X becomes easy. Hey, that's a good name for a book. Yeah.
No, it makes total sense, because
Looking to grow your business beyond 5 figures, 6 figures, 7 figures plus, what I want you to do is go download this book. The title is called Be Good, Be Brief, Be Gone. It will help you grow your business past 5, 6, and 7 figure. Go download the book today, growfast.cash. I say again, growfast.cash, and download the book for absolutely free.
I know some people who are like severe micromanagers, and they want to handle everything because that's just how they are. And meanwhile, you got a team of people. And I always say, you do what you do best. Let me do what I do best. And it first of all, if you give me something that I'm good at and I like doing, well, now you just made my job a pleasure to do, as opposed to give me all this other crap that I really don't even like and can't do it that great. But if everybody did their specialty, you spread the wealth in a sense, and the job gets done 100 times better. And you have a happy staff, because everybody's doing the job that they're skilled for and capable of, and good stuff.
You're having fun. They're having fun. I mean, it's strange to say that about work, but if you're doing what you love, then you're having fun. And then everybody's capabilities are added to everybody else's capabilities. The cliche is, the sum is bigger than the parts. Right, the whole is bigger than the sum of the parts. That's true. If you do it right, if you do what you just described, then it's way bigger than the individuals involved. It becomes something that the individuals couldn't create on their own. They had to be part of this larger thing where people let them do what they like, and everybody's happy. God, what a weird concept that is.
A happy company. Yeah.
That's right.
Now tell us, you've worked with major companies like lynda.com, LinkedIn, and Microsoft. So what were some key challenges and successes in those roles?
Well, actually, with that in itself is an interesting story. Lynda was a relatively small company in the space of online training, online education, at a time when that hadn't exploded. It has now exploded, but this was back a while, and they had really great training, and they asked me to join them and start this division that they wanted to market to a whole new area. So I did, and came on board and had a ball, and the product was spectacular. I mean, the way I worked in the high tech world was always to sell and market something that I liked, I believed in. That's my secret sauce. Then I'm not. How do I put this? Then I'm not selling it. I'm just sharing this amazing thing that I've discovered with other people. Anyway, so that worked great. they worked so well that LinkedIn decided to buy Linda. So LinkedIn bought Linda, and LinkedIn was way bigger than I wanted to have anything to do with. So I was ready to leave. And then they made me an offer I couldn't refuse. Not a bad problem to have, but okay. So now I'm working from, instead of what was then a 200 or 300 people at Linda, to 15,000 people company with LinkedIn. Totally different culture, but an interesting journey. And then that was so successful that a year after that, Microsoft bought LinkedIn. And now, now I'm part of the, I'm the little fish that is now part of one of the biggest fish in the world. So obviously I was going to leave there, and they made me an offer I couldn't refuse. So I stayed there for a number of years, and it was an experience unlike anything I'd ever had before, because I went to these different levels within the companies, and I got to study hugely successful organizations at several levels. Each was defining their space and successfully doing it, and it was fun seeing that, learning what worked, learning what didn't work. And then of course I got to play with some incredible technology along the way. So
no, I mean, obviously if you're at this company and they're doing great and someone wants to buy it, you don't want to necessarily say, okay, it was because of me, but then it happened again and again. So I think you do play a huge role in.
Well, no, I can say in complete confidence that it had nothing to do with me. These entities were so large, it had nothing to do with me. But I got to go along for the ride, and if it's the right ride, there's nothing wrong with that. So it was fun. I will say that I was in the right place at the right time. I will say that, and that's just pure luck. Pure dumb luck.
Now tell us, what motivated you to write your upcoming book, The 10X Superpower? Like what was impossible is now easy, and what can readers expect to learn from it?
So we've talked about some of that. It's this idea that if you are ready, you can have a life that is not just better, incrementally better, which is really what I was teaching in my first book, but exponentially better. And here's what I mean by exponentially better. If you take 1 + 1, you get 2, okay? That's incremental. You can add another 1 and you get 3, and you keep doing that, eventually you get a big number. If you take 1 and multiply it by 10, wow, that's a huge jump. But the jump doesn't stop there, because the 10, if you take your life to a level that is 10 times beyond where it is now, and that's, again, however you define it. Right. It can be income, it can be happiness, it can be health, it can be relationship, it can be all of the above. In fact, when you do this in any part of your life, it tends to ripple throughout your whole life, because it's a major change. You're changing who you are. But if you do this, if you take yourself to that 10x level, and X in my book, in my graphics, and my trademark, X is an exponent. It's not just 10 times X, it's 10x to an exponent, which I want people to think about, because if you get your life to a 10x level, to 10 times where it is now, you've now created a new level, a new platform. You've had to grow. Remember, you've become someone who's now doing something that was impossible for the person who set the goal, just like a kid learning to walk, right? You've done this. Now you're a new person. And now you can set a new 10x goal, which becomes, wait for it, 100 times. Sorry about the math. It becomes 100 times better than where you started. And that's no end either. This is exponential growth. It can continue throughout your life. You're in control of it if you choose to make it. And the choice to make it, we've already touched on this. You touched on it initially. You're going to find people who say you can't do it. You're going to find people who look at you like, I don't want to be friends with this person anymore, because they're now at a whole different level. That happens. And you have to decide whether you're okay with that or not. And if you do decide that, you'll find that all kinds of interesting new people come into your life that take you and your relationships to an exciting level. So So, I mean, it's back to what we said earlier. It's not for everybody. It's probably for 1 in 100 people.
But it is so funny. Like, I always laugh. I'm blonde and I'm Polish. So you know what I always deal with. It's like, she's an idiot. She'll, and I just always was told this as I'm a kid. Oh, she's blonde. Oh, well, I graduated high school. I'm like a major perfectionist. I graduated high school valedictorian. I got my master's degree with a 4.0 GPA. I mean, I strive to do better than everybody just because it's like, I'm going to prove everybody wrong. And I'm going to prove to myself that you're wrong, But you have to have that internal motivation and just block out what everybody else says, because I just, especially, like what I do, marketing, back in the day, it was a male dominated industry. So girls, it just, you just took a lot of crap, but you have to have that mentality that you could do it. And if you put your mind to it and have the goals, you could do, but the other people will be like, oh, I can't, oh, it's no. And you're going to be in that same miserable position your whole life. So people, well, speaking of, so goal setting, it can be daunting for a lot of people. So what are some common mistakes people make, and how does your methodology address them?
Well, again, it all depends on the frame you choose to put around this. If you go back to the beginning, to my first book, the simplest mistake is people don't set them. They think they do, but a goal, if you do it right, is a formal process. It's one of the reasons I used the term magic lamp so it didn't scare people, but it really you do write it down, you do stare at it, you do put a deadline on it. Without a deadline, it's not a goal. And you do make it measurable. If it's not measurable, it's not a goal. If you can't measure your progress, how do you know if you're making progress? How do you know if you're winning if you're not keeping score? So that's sort of the basic, what people, if they miss something about goal setting, that's where they miss it. Now, fast forward to where my brain is now and my life is now, and I realize that thinking incrementally is the next mistake people make, and I made it for decades. So I'm not saying people are wrong in doing this. This is sort of how the human brain works. Excuse me, but it doesn't have to work that way. The brain is capable of we talk about the speed of light, and it takes a year for light to travel 6 trillion miles. So a star that's 100 light years away is incredibly far away, right? And if we aimed a light beam at that star, it would take 100 years for it to get there, right? But guess what? I can think about that star. I can imagine that star, and I'm there. Right? There's absolutely no latency. There's nothing, no speed, no delay at all, because the brain is not limited in our thinking processes the way we look at the physical world. So if you kind of get into this idea of the only limits I have are mine, and the only sense of what is impossible is me. It's not the physical universe. I mean, I used to say, okay, you can't be in two places at the same time. Well, quantum mechanics is now redefining that, right? So I don't know what's physically impossible anymore, but I do know that people think things are impossible, and if they think it's impossible, they're right. I mean, you know this, right? If they say, yeah, I can't get that 4.0 average, right? I'm not smart enough. They're not going to get it. It starts with figuring out I'm not thinking high enough. I want a bigger future because I want a bigger present. That's why I want a bigger future. I was always, do I want a bigger future or not? The present is the present. It's not that. It's, do I want a bigger present? If I want a bigger present, and who doesn't want a bigger present if you get right down to it, then I need a bigger future. And if I want an exponentially bigger present, I need an exponentially bigger future. So that's where the mistake is now, that people just aren't thinking big enough because they don't think they can. And what I'm trying to teach them is not only can you, it's easier than what you're doing now. That's the thing that flips a person's brain. It's like, whoa, I don't even know how to deal with that.
No one would ever think that. I mean, yeah. I mean,
Right?
everybody thinks I'm already working hard as it is. What do you mean I could get more for less?
Yeah,
That's only on TV.
that's it. More for less. Another good name for a book.
There you go. Now tell us, as someone with over 40 years experience, how have you seen the landscape of sales and personal development evolve? And what do you see, where do you see it heading in the future?
Wait a minute. If I have 40 years of experience, I had to start when I was 41. I mean, when I was one. No.
That's what I
Uh,
always say. Like,
yeah.
I got 35 years experience, but I'm only 25. How is it
I'm
even
only
possible?
25. How did this happen? Um, well, so it's interesting. Everything's changing. We've all gone through this incredible shock to the system, which was the pandemic. But what's come out of the pandemic is you and I are now talking. We're talking as if we're in the same room. I feel completely comfortable that you and I are connecting. Okay. And I could talk on the landline, I did that for years, made a career. I'm sure you did too, but this is different. And it's powerful, and it's something that I never gave myself to, if you will, until I had to. And then suddenly it's like, wow, this is, once you start thinking this way, you realize this is a whole lot easier than getting on an airplane, right? And you can do this for a group. It's a little trickier with a group, and there are levels of how you handle that. And I know you know that too. But that's just one change that we've all gone through, and we're all sort of at the same place. This is new. This is different for us. But there are other changes floating out there. AI is a classic example, right? AI is I think of AI, as I said, I think of prompt engineering, and what I teach is prompt engineering for the human brain. But AI will help us do things that we struggle with right now. I mean, AI right now, if you want to take one of your books and turn it into an audiobook, there's AI that will turn it into an audiobook, and it'll sound just like you. There's AI that'll create a PowerPoint presentation for you, and it'll be with your words and your ideas. I mean, these are powerful ways of doing more than we ever thought we as individuals could do. There's downside to AI too. You can talk about that. You can think about that. So that people keep saying AI is overhyped, if that's possible. Only because the only thing that people are really talking about is how to use AI in marketing, right? I want to create content so that everybody sees my content, so I'll have AI invent this content. Well, if that's your thing, more power to you. Lots of people are doing it. Lots of people are making money selling AI tools to do that. But AI will take us way beyond that. And AI will stay in my world, coaching. What you're doing and what I'm doing, actually what we're doing right now, being human, will become a premium. This is a useful thing to think about. People are afraid, well, how's this going to take away my job? Well, that's one way to look at it. But the other way to look at it is it essentially puts you in a position of your humanness becomes more valuable than it ever was before, because it'll become more and more unique. Right now, AI can create music, right? But would you rather listen to AI music, or would you rather listen to your favorite musician perform in a club? Both are fine. But the person performing in a club becomes a scarce resource. And now that humanness becomes more valuable than it ever was before. So that's how I'm looking at the change that's gonna sweep over our industry, is sweeping over our industry and every other one. It's remaking it. But what comes out of it is that being human is more valuable than ever. I think that's a good thing. So
Yeah, that's the most positive aspect that I've heard of this yet. So
good.
that's
Good.
awesome.
Good.
Yeah, it's usually everything negative. I'm like, that is actually unique.
Yeah.
And it's funny with the songs, because I paid last year for me and my husband's anniversary, I paid to have somebody create a song for us. And then the other day, my son has me listen to this song. He had it created for his, new baby. And he's like, yeah, I put in like 3 or 4 keywords. And I'm like, no way. I mean, it's just amazing. So it can do a lot, but it is, all I kept thinking is, and I just paid how much for this song?
Yeah,
And I could have just put in 3 keywords for free. Yeah, but good stuff. So I guess.
It's incredible. Yeah, no, it's incredible. It's all moving faster than any of us can take it in. Yeah. But again, there's that piece of what it's really doing is making us as humans more valuable if we allow ourselves to get to that space, instead of being scared to death of what the steamroller that's rolling over us.
Yeah, no, for sure. So I guess tell us, what advice would you give to someone just starting out in their career who maybe feels overwhelmed by the prospect of setting and achieving big goals?
Stop that.
Really, come on.
Yeah, I mean, really, people in that age, I love talking to people like that because they have so much in front of them. They get tired of hearing that because they don't really understand what that means. But if you can get them to dream, I'm one of my, this is actually a passage from my book about magic questions, that people often believe they don't have any imagination, which is imagination, right? They've dreamed something up, and that's all. I mean, what the human mind does brilliantly is it makes stuff up. That's what we do. And if you understand that and you give yourself permission to do that, permission to dream, permission to think, and so with this 10X at its initial iteration, I'm not really talking to that person heading into the workforce because, again, I'm charging $10,000. They probably don't have $10,000, and mommy and daddy probably don't want to give it to some flim-flam guy who promises 10X results. Right now, we're not going there. But the concept, the people go to my website, they fill out a questionnaire to see if they even qualify to do 10X, because I've got some questions that sort of help them understand, are you ready for this or not? I mean, even if you say I've got my checkbook ready to go, are you ready for this? Because I don't care about the money. I care about the commitment. And if you don't qualify, you'll be sent to a page where you can download an excerpt from the book. The book is 10 breakthroughs, mind-blowing breakthroughs, and you get the first 3 breakthroughs, which are, to me, any one of them is worth $10,000. So you get that for free. So if a young person, however you describe that, in my case, it's anybody younger than 60, if a young person could get that and think, wait a minute, I need to be thinking 10X now, right out of the gate, right? The idea of, how do I get a C in chemistry? Yeah. That's not gonna take you where you want to go, right? If, on the other hand, you start thinking, how do I get a PhD in chemistry, right? Because that's what I want to do. Your brain starts instantly. I mean, this happens instantly. It starts filtering your world differently. Yeah, you can go to a party tonight, or you can do something else. Yeah, you can take the summer off and do this, or you can do something else. You start reevaluating your present. You start living a different present instantly once you commit to this fabulous future, right? So that I would love to teach that to people who are 18 coming into college, or 22 getting out of college, or whatever. That would be fun.
No, it definitely makes a lot of sense, because people aren't thinking about that. All they think college is, how much can I party, blah, blah, blah. And then after the fact, it's like, wow, okay, now I'm how old? I should have really did this, could have, should have, would have. Not helping them now.
Yeah, that's right. It's not helping them. Right.
No. Anything else you want to talk on that we didn't touch on yet?
No, this has been great. You've asked some wonderful questions. It's always fun. I'm in this mode now where I'm trying to, psychologically speaking, I'm doing a bunch of pattern interrupts. I'm essentially taking something that somebody has learned their entire lives and flipping it on their ear, right? You can make 10X progress. Okay, whatever. And it's easier than what you're doing. What? That's like, bam. There is no limit to the progress you can make once you understand the power of who. Oh, wow, there really isn't any limit. Time and energy, my time and energy no longer matter. They no longer limit me. I just get other who's to help out, and they're more and more. Each of these breakthroughs is essentially a pattern interrupt. You get this stuff. You live and breathe it. It's a delight to talk to somebody who's coming from that same place. And all I can say is thanks for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I love learning about all this. That's one thing I love at the podcast, meeting people, learning everything that they do. And I just think your story is amazing. And it's as opposed to someone who's reading a textbook that says, here's what you should do. And here's, before, during, and after. You're not saying any of that. You're saying, wipe that from your brain. Here's what I'm telling you to do. I have living proof. It's worked for countless other people.
Yep.
And here's what you should follow. And I mean, that makes a lot more sense as to somebody who's done it themselves, Good stuff. So
I like that. I'm going to use the wipe your brain part. That's I'm going to use that line. Yep. Okay, everybody, ready?
There you go.
Wipe your brain.
Exactly. Erase it.
Yep.
Now, how can people get a hold of you or learn more about you?
So the simplest way is my website is 10X Superpower.com. So it's 10X Superpower.com.
Perfect.
And what that is this, I call it a 10X reality check. It's, people want to know more about it. They want to, they want to see if, they can do this, and $10,000 for a book is crazy. What's this about? What it really is it's a little quiz you take. And you answer these questions, and it comes back and says, you're ready. And if you're ready, here's the next step. Or it comes back and says, you know what? This may be something to put in your back pocket for your future. In the meantime, here's this cool excerpt, tell me what you think of it, that kind of thing. So if they go to that website, that's what they'll get.
I mean, it makes total sense because, you could talk, like you said, you could talk to 100,000 people and maybe 20 of them will be suitable for this. But that would quality over quantity, I guess is the best way to say it.
Well, and from their point of view and my point of view, we both then have the same agenda. We want to work together. I don't want to waste anybody's time. I don't want them to waste my time. No. So if we can figure out, okay, cut through all the BS, all the conventional wisdom, everything else, this is going to turn your life upside down by your choice, by your effort. Yeah. If you're ready to do this, then let's do it. If you're not, I totally get that. There's no reason in the world you should even give it a second thought. And then you see what happens. But it's fun. And again, people like you who get it, it's a ball to talk about this because it just starts going out and going out and going out. And then I learn from you, and I love to grow, and I love to help people grow. So.
Yeah. And you need people who are committed to the point where they're not going to, because maybe someone says, okay, yeah, I would totally want to do this. I'm ready. But like you say, you're going to be changing everything about you now.
Yeah.
Well, now you might have the spouse who comes in, oh, what is this? You're wasting too much time,
Right.
And now, so you have to have someone who's like, put the blinders on and everything, and you are committed. And that's it. Don't, like you say, don't waste anybody's time.
Yep. That's it.
Well, thank you again for being on the show. Again, that was Keith Ellis. So thanks for listening to Successful Minds with Patty B. Never miss an episode by subscribing. So thank you again.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Hey, we all want to scale our business. Hey, I have the answer for you today to help you do that. If you're looking to scale from 5, 6, even 7 figures and beyond, book called Be Good, Be Brief, Be Gone. I'm going to give it to you for free. All you have to do is type in growfast.cash. I say again, growfast.cash, and you can download the book for absolutely free. I hope the book helps you this year. Take your business to the next level. Again, go grab the book, growfast.cash. I say again, growfast.cash. I wish you the best and grow, scale, and win.
Thank you for listening to Successful Minds with your host, Patricia Barnowski-Schneider. Please leave your feedback and visit strategicadvisorboard.com to get the latest and greatest business advisement on the planet. Follow us on social media for updates, and we'll see you on the next episode.
There it is. Magnum. Holy moly.
Yeah, baby! That's what I've been waiting for!
Dear God. It's beautiful.